the newly launched Pinpoint Policy Institute. Gordon, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me on.
We're going to talk a little economy, a little economic news and such. But first, let's talk about what is the Pinpoint Policy Institute's mission, and what do you guys really do and kind of keep your eye on?
Great, thanks so much. So, Pinpoint Policy Institute is a nonprofit policy research organization we launched about 2 months ago, and our mission is to promote and defend the building blocks of American prosperity. So what that means is when I look at the United States, I think we have a great story to tell. We're the world's largest economy, and I know we have some challenges, but nevertheless, we still deliver the highest standard of living to its citizens compared to other major economies. And, you know, when I look around the world, I see economic policies that I do not want to see imported into the United States. And frankly, when I look at the policy landscape, just like the song says, I've got some clowns to the left of me and frankly, a couple jokers to the right. And, you know, what I don't want to see is the United States end up looking like Europe with long periods of slow growth and an increasing role of government in the economy. And I'm afraid that there's a lot of temptation on the right and the left to do just that.
And that's when you get stuck right in the middle, you know, with that. Well, Gordon, let's talk about recent information on the jobs report from the Biden administration. What did you see in that?
So, first, it's important to remember that the jobs report is actually two reports. When the jobs report comes out, as we know, there's the unemployment rate, and then there's also sort of the number of jobs that were created over the last month. And those two numbers come from two different data surveys. One of those surveys is a poll of employers, and that's called the payroll survey. And the second survey is called the household survey. And that's essentially where the Bureau of Labor Statistics calls up households and asks them, have you been working? How much were you paid? Things like that. And so when the jobs report comes out, it reflects the results of both of those surveys. The unemployment rate comes from that household survey. And the payroll survey is the survey where we get the jobs created. And so sometimes these surveys can tell slightly different stories. So on the one hand, we had from the payroll survey 272 jobs created in the month of May. And that surprised a lot of us. That was almost 100,000 jobs more than a lot of us were expecting. On the other hand, we had the household survey, which showed that unemployment ticked up a little bit and ended a 27-month run of sub 4% unemployment. So there's a couple things going on in that report.
And the portion of the jobs created, what any particular category or area of employment that those jobs are showing up? Sure. So in last month's survey, the leading private sector industry that saw the biggest gains was a category called private education and health services. And a lot of the jobs that are in that industry were in sort of doctors' offices and, you know, hospital workers and basically the healthcare industry. The second leading category that saw job creation last month was actually in government, largely local government and not in education. So I think just municipal workers. That can include police and other municipal workers. And then further down the line, we had the hospitality industry, so restaurant and hotel workers, along with just basic business services. Those were the major industries that saw job gains last month. So in the sector of hospitality and in that area, that is any of that seasonal employment, or is it just like new upstarts? So no, these data are actually adjusted for seasonal fluctuations. They look at patterns of hiring over the course of the year, and they can basically take out some of that static, and they run these through sophisticated statistical models so that when you're seeing increases in hospitality in a given month, it's
controlled for, hiring that happens in the summer, or, hiring that uniquely happens around Christmas and things like that. So this is controlled for the seasonal fluctuation. So this really is just, new, folks getting jobs in restaurants, hotels, casinos, places like that.
Were there any particular areas of the country that had more growth than others, or was it pretty much equal all the way across the board?
So there is an index in the jobs report called the diffusion index that sort of shows how widely diffused or how broad-based the job gains are across industries. And this month showed fairly even distribution across industries. Still waiting on some of that regional data. It tends to come out a little bit later after the jobs report. Some of those data just take a little bit longer to report, so we'll have to wait and see on that.
Okay, all right. Well, now let's talk about public perception of the economy right now. A lot of people are still kind of feel some pain in the paycheck. Maybe of underemployment, inflation is up and down, interest rates are playing their game, and people feel like, okay, we have a recession going on here. What is the biggest difference? A recession, a slowdown, it's things stalling out. How could you describe this to someone that has those feelings?
So, a recession is a rule of thumb is that it's 2 successive quarters of negative growth, so the economy would actually be contracting. That's not the strict definition, but it's a good rule of thumb, and we're not seeing that right now. Instead, and as you said, you have a lot of people who've been working, and unemployment has remained pretty low. So compared to, say, the Great Recession, where unemployment was ticking up into double-digit territory, that's not the challenge we're facing right now. Instead, we're facing inflation that has been at near historic levels. So some of the highest rates we've seen in 40 years, and that's why the Federal Reserve is pushing really hard against that and making, say, mortgages a lot more expensive. But that challenge is really difficult for families and households. And so under the Biden administration, prices have outgrown wage growth. And so that means that American families and workers are working, and some of them are falling further behind. That's been true over the course of this year, and it's been true over the course of the Biden administration. So it's a different challenge than a recession where the economy shrinks and unemployment goes up. But nevertheless, households can continue to struggle under this economy.
I'm just wondering. You see prices of a gallon of milk. You see, a dozen eggs. Of course, the eggs have gone down quite a bit. Gasoline is a commodity that is going to go up and down based on the market and things like that. So, some of these companies that are having to charge higher prices, are they still using we haven't recovered from the pandemic yet? I mean, how much longer is that going to be an issue?
So, fundamentally, inflation is a generalized increase in the overall price level. And that is a function of when there is more demand than there is supply. And additionally, there are enough dollars in the economy to satisfy those price increases. And one of the things that the Federal Reserve is doing is holding on to some of those dollars. That's what the higher interest rates are doing, and that works to slow the economy down a little bit. And I think we're starting to see that somewhat. And so the pace of inflation has slowed down, but it remains really stubborn. And so I'm concerned that when we get inflation data a little bit later this month, that we're not going to see the progress that we want. So some folks are already talking about cutting interest rates, but the battle against inflation isn't over yet. So I'm concerned that we're still going to see some of this stubborn price growth. It's making it difficult for a lot of working people.
All right. Good deal. Well, we've been talking with Jordan Gray, Executive Director of Pinpoint Policy Institute, and the jobs report and some other economic indicators that are going on. And I look forward. I hope we can talk again when all the other reports come out. And we'll put that on the calendar here for a couple of weeks. So just let me know. We'll talk about that. Hey, Gordon's been great talking with you, and thanks for your information this morning. All right.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.